Welcome to ArieVive Studios talk show and podcast hosted by Victory Lyric. Get ready to be inspired to be all you were called and created to be. Join us as we showcase nationwide artisans and their unique stories. This is your opportunity to explore creativity with diverse crafts, recipes, and tutorials with practical tips for unleashing your artistic side. Let's get ready for spiritual upliftment, healing stories, miracles, and divine goodness. Get ready for an amazing segment of ArieVive Studios talk show and podcast with host Victory Lyric.
Welcome to ArieVive Studios, and I am your host, Victory Lyric. And today we have an incredible guest. She is going to literally change your outlook on life, and I am excited for you guys to meet her and hear from her. She is a podcast host, an author, an entrepreneur, and a speaker, and she is just incredible. Welcome, Takiya Shaune. So, Takiya, tell us a little bit about who are you? Tell us about you.
Hey, Victory. I am so honored to be here. So just a little bit about me. As you mentioned, I am an author, entrepreneur, mentor, a talk show host, and I'm excited to launch my podcast, which is another outlet for me to share my testimony, to talk. I mean, I remember one of the things about me as a kid, I was always told I talk too much, and now I literally have my own show to talk.
I love it. Yes, I was that girl in the back of the class, like, now stop all that talking,
Yeah.
So instead I whispered to the friends, try not to get busted.
Yeah, the teacher would move me next to people I didn't know, and I was like, shrug shoulders. I like to make new friends. I'll start talking to these people.
That's awesome. I love it. Never met a stranger. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you and I chatted a little bit yesterday, kind of get to know each other, and I feel like we're already friends as well. So
we are BFFs. We are BFFs over the last 24 hours.
Right? So you guys are going to love Miss Takiya's new podcast, because she's just going to be an immediate friend. You're going to be like, that's my girl.
That's what I want to be. I always tell people I'm the BFF you never knew you had.
Right? Oh, I'm so glad. So tell me, you have the most beautiful smile.
Thank you.
Tell me, speaking of smiles, about your podcast.
Yes, and thank you. That is something that speaking of BFFs, my best friend always points out. She says, Takiya, your smile is so contagious. She says, when you smile, you make other people smile. But my podcast, as you would have it, is called Behind This Smile. And I take a deep look behind what really goes on with this smile. Sometimes we look at a photograph and we see people smiling and we go, oh, she just looks like she's just enjoying herself, or this must have been a great moment. But I peel back the layers on my podcast and I talk about what really went on behind that smile. Everything from my overcoming abuse and homelessness and mental illness, and even to date, the launch of the podcast, what started it was my overcoming a stalker, intimate partner stalking. And so while there's this huge smile, there's a lot that goes on behind it. Yeah,
that had to be terrifying for you.
It was. It has been a journey for the past 2 years. No one expects to get married. We don't get married expecting to get divorced. But then when you get divorced, you do not expect that your ex-husband is going to become your stalker. And it was pretty harrowing. A lot of psychological abuse and manipulation. It's something that I'll tell you, this month, January, is Stalking Prevention Awareness Month, and I did not know. And it's one of those things that you don't know until you have to know. And so my launching this podcast on January 18th was the national call to action. It was huge. It was a heart project for me to get my podcast out there, but also to be an advocate for this awareness of stalking. So
it's beautiful. I love it. I love how you've taken something that was negative and have turned it around for the positive to help others. That's a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. We were chatting, before the interview, and we talked a little bit about how the enemy, from the time that we're born, there's a war against our authenticity and our voice.
Yes.
And obviously quite the talker, but there was a time when there was a war for your voice. Can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that, and
Yeah.
kind of how this all got going?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that you're so spot on with that. How the fact that the enemy tries to take our voice, and as we were talking yesterday, what ties into that is, we talked about in Revelations, we've overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, and the enemy tries to take our voice. And for me, he literally, physically, the amount of stress and the attacks that I'd gone through, not only leading up to the stalking, but within the marriage. I'll share quickly. I'm 46, and I waited until I was 44 before I got married. This was
Oh,
my
wow.
first marriage, first anyone. I really sought and waited on the Lord, and then ended up in a marriage where I just was someone that, you have two people that we all have choices, and we can choose to obey and disobey God. And one of us was obeying and the other one wasn't. And the amount of stress that added to the marriage, it was physically damaging to me. And the amount of stress was breaking me down. And I actually lost my voice. And this was a battle
Wow.
for about a year. My voice was
Oh,
just not the same. So physically, the amount of stress had taken my voice. It wasn't that I couldn't not talk, but I couldn't talk properly. My larynx was affected. I mean, they were talking about surgery, all of this stuff. And it was just very raspy. And sometimes it would be there and sometimes it wouldn't be there. And we found out it was simply stress. And so when I removed myself from the marriage, I began to heal. But then after the divorce, the stress came back on again because he refused to let go with the stalking. And the stalking was following me through 3 states, tracking devices on my vehicle, showing up to, I mean, even as far as showing up to my hotel in another state as a delivery door person. So,
oh
um,
my
so the
goodness.
physicality of taking my voice, not only in the spiritual sense of it, but actually in the physical sense of it. So with me launching this podcast, I feel like I'm taking my power back. I feel like I'm taking my voice back.
Right.
And I'm putting out there, because a big part of what God showed me was the fact that I was not speaking up about what I was going through. I was trying to heal through all of this, but I was also feeling ashamed, if I'm going to be honest, that I found myself in a situation, and internalizing all of that and not speaking about it was actually something that was damaging to me as well. And how this whole podcast evolved was, I picked up a picture one day and saw myself smiling. And I literally said to God, if people really only knew what happened behind this smile. And I heard him say, so tell them. And that's how it was born.
Oh, that gives me chills. So yeah, I want to kind of go back to something you just said, though. When you were talking about how you had shame from this marriage, this stalking, this thing. Isn't it amazing how someone else can harm us and we take it on ourselves, especially as Christians? Like, there's some kind of a pressure that says, well, why didn't you know better? Why didn't you have discernment? Why,
Right.
and
Right.
we are then put, all the weight is put on us, the shame is put on us, and it's hard to climb out of that feeling of I should have known better.
Right.
And the should haves can seriously steal your joy, steal your voice, just put so much shame on you that you don't even want people to see you. It's isolating.
Yeah, that you're 100% spot on. that, like you said, we can make a choice or a decision as believers, and we can walk in faith. And I'll tell you, I know that there will still to this day be a lot of kickback, and people will say, well, you must have missed God. You could not have possibly have heard God to marry this man if he was not going to do the honorable thing by you in marriage, and then he turned into your stalker. I have a relationship with God, and my faith with God was to wait. And all that I can say is that exactly what God walked me through in my season of, because we beat ourselves up enough, right?
Right.
We beat ourselves up going, did I miss God? Did I not hear God? Was I disobedient? And I had to just hold on to my faith and trust that my relationship with God was solid, and what God had to show me was exactly what I said a little bit ago. When God puts two people together, whether it's in a marriage, a relationship, a business, a partnership, our children, our spouses, if there's two people involved, those two people have to make a choice to obey or disobey. So when someone doesn't make the right decision, the individual that has made the right decision often tends to feel shamed, or the enemy comes to, try to tell you, see, you missed God, you didn't hear God, you didn't get it right. And that's a lot of nonsense. You have to be able to pull yourself out of that place and not get stuck in that state. And we do. And a lot of times as believers in the body of Christ, we do have that. Like you just said, discernment. Well, did you not have discernment? Did you not hear? God is sovereign. We don't know why some things happen, but the God that we serve, he's not a controlling God. And what I mean by that is he could not force my ex-husband to do the right thing. My ex-husband had a choice to do the right thing, and he didn't.
And it's easy to think to yourself, well, why didn't God protect me from this person? Didn't he know he was crazy?
I sure did, girl.
Right. And we can go round and round and really, truly, suffer in our relationship with God and in our relationship with ourselves. Mm-hmm. But to me, that's where the self-learning, self-compassion. Yeah. Just you did the best you could with the information you had at this time. Mm-hmm. And maybe, just maybe, God allowed you to walk through that because he needed to pull something up out of you. Yeah. Maybe he used that not that he caused it, but he used it and allowed it so that he could pull this big old voice out of Takiya, and same with me, so that he could tell the story of disappointment in my book, and help people walk through those disappointments like you and I have walked through, very similar stories. Mm-hmm. So that leads us to the next place, though. And I know this is an exciting one for you, our artisan point of view. And this is where we have a tutorial, something amazing that our artisan has learned along the way that she wants to share with us. And I think Takiya has a really inspirational one, a very exciting one. So go ahead. Why don't you share this?
Yes. So talking about Behind the Smile, the podcast, I have the testimony to that was there's a woman at my church that really encouraged me during the season. And she walked up to me one day and she says, you need to keep smiling. You're beautiful. She said, your smile is your weapon. And I remember that stuck with me. I loved it. And that stuck with me. And that perpetuated through this whole season. And so when Behind the Smile came about, again, I was just scrolling through social media, looking at a picture of me, and I'm always smiling. So this is what I want to pour into people and what I want you all to do, what I've learned to do. Take a picture of yourself. Find a photo of yourself. You got a picture of me.
I do. Let's show it. Yeah, I'll show it right quick.
Perfect. There's that picture. Let's talk about this picture. So this picture on this day, this was actually the day that I launched my first podcast episode. I will tell you. Now listen, look at the smile in that picture. Yeah. I was miserable. I was depressed. I had just come out of literally battling suicidal ideology. But I knew I heard God say, you need to start telling people what goes on behind this smile. So this day in particular, I got up, I got dressed, and I got behind my camera and I started sharing my story of going through stalking and everything I had dealt with. And this picture I took of myself was after I finished recording that first episode. And my hair was actually green. You can't tell because it's black and white. My hair is green because I wanted to go and do something different, and the salon ruined it. So I had to keep smiling in that photo.
Whoa.
And so I share that because of what I want the viewers and the listeners to do is, even with everything that I was going through, God gave me purpose and a reason, even in my smile, to do something with it. So I want everybody to find a picture of themselves. Your favorite photo could be your least favorite, but something where you're smiling, where if we looked at it, we would go, man, she looks great in that photo. But you know the truth and the depth of what you were dealing with behind that. Now, what I want you to do with that is, maybe you like to journal, maybe you like to write, whatever. Put that down somewhere. Okay, put that down somewhere and find the good that happened in that. Remember, I said in that photo, there was suicidal ideology. I was depressed. I was shut in. I had a nervous breakdown, and I had chopped all my hair off. Victory, I didn't even tell you this. My hair was down here. My hair was long and to my shoulders, and I had a nervous breakdown, and I chopped my hair off. And then I decided to try to fix it, and the salon turned it green. So
maybe green hair is good for you. I mean,
yeah, I don't know, girl.
Hey, mine's a little pink right now, so
yeah, yeah. So I did end up shaving it off more because I was like, oh, let's just start over.
I love you with short hair. You look cute.
Everybody tells me they like me with short hair. They say they can see my face more in my smile. So, but that's what I'd like people to do, is because what I was doing was I was shutting down. I was allowing the amount of stress and everything and the burden and the shame to steal my voice, to steal my story. And what we want people to do here is understand that you matter. And no matter how big or small something may have seemed to you, there's purpose in it. So even if you only find the purpose for yourself, sit down with that photo and revisit that and find just one good thing in that behind your smile.
I love it. That's a wonderful, wonderful way to go about it, to take your own photos and look at those moments and let God, work in you in those photos. That's brilliant. Absolutely love it. And no, I would have never guessed you looking like some kind of model, that you had green hair and you were feeling pretty down that day. So I just think that yeah, it's a shocker. So yeah, you're right. It's really easy with our social media and so forth to just be posting things that are facades. There's no authenticity behind it. And then, I'm seeing this photo and I'm like, man, I wish I looked so awesome, as Takiya does. I wish I could take a photo like that. I'm looking all bold and whatnot. And does my podcast photo look kind of, beautiful? And that's the kind of things that we think when we look at somebody else's photo. And I thought that when I first looked at your photo, I'm like, oh man, I don't have anything powerful like that. Like, so, isn't it amazing?
It is.
That was not what was happening there.
That's not what was happening.
Yeah,
and I think that speaks
ourselves and our emotions is so important.
It speaks so big to what you just said about social media. We can get caught up on, man, everybody else looks happy and everybody else looks healthy. And that's what this podcast is about. Let's go behind the smile. Let's be authentic. Let's talk about and the premise of it, all of my podcast covers are different photos that over the years I'm going to post, and I'm smiling big, but I'm going to tell you, hey, you know what? I was homeless when I took this photo. You know what? I just had surgery and I stopped breathing 3 times on the OR table when I took this photo.
Wow.
Hey, you know what? In this photo, I had just left the ER and my daughter was strapped to a gurney with a security guard outside the door because she had slit her wrist. This photo, my son had just went head on into a tree and they thought he was DOA. These are the kind of stories that I have behind my smile. And I just want to be authentic because I know that I'm not the only one. And we pressed through today to get to this. There's many out there that we need to be authentic. Authenticity is the new Black, as they say, and we need to be authentic. We no more hiding behind the smile,
I love it. I love it. I love what God's doing, bringing it to the light and allowing you to help others bring these things to the light, because when we bring them to the light, we can lay them down to the Lord and take that weight off of us, the secrets that we carry along the way. And I think that's, so cool about taking this photo. And even revealing to ourselves the secret behind this. And, and when we do, we give those secrets to God, he can, turn that stuff around for us rather than, continuing to carry it. So I love it. I love it. But this is our Victory point of view, and she's going to tell us an amazing story. So go ahead, Takiya.
Girl, Victory, you would not believe this.
Okay.
So, I have a testimony. When you told me that you wanted a big aha, the first thing that came to mind was a prophetic word that I got earlier this year, right before I launched my podcast. So God tells me you need to launch Behind the Smile. You need to just start. I kept hearing that. You need to just start. You need to just start. So much so that I literally was running into complete strangers that were giving me affirmations. You need to just start. Well, I started. As I said in that picture that we showed, I got up, I pushed through, I did it, and everything, when I say every technical issue, every obstacle, green hair, all of that, everything that could stop me, tried to stop me. Well, as it would have it, we launched. I launched on January 18th. I got it out there, and I remember thinking, okay, you told me to just start, God. Like, there's so many more logistics to getting this podcast to grow and to reaching people and SEO and stats and all this stuff that I'm learning as I go. But you told me to just start. So I did. Well, what the prophecy that someone told me would happen was, they said, if you just started, you're going to get your voice out there before the people that need to hear it. And what's going to happen is those people, the right person is going to see you, and they're going to reach out to you, and it'll possibly be their assistant, and they're going to connect you with the person that you need to be connected to so that it can open the doors that need to happen. You, Victory, are the person that reached out to me, and it happened exactly as God said it would, all because I just started. You don't even know this, but we connected in the Christian podcast group, and you are the first person to interview me. I've not done any interviews since I launched the podcast. You're the first person to reach out, and you're doing it exactly as God said he would, said it would happen. And I just find that so amazing, and it just happens so seamlessly. And to me, that is just it's how big the God is that we serve, how just one simple step or act of obedience will open the doors that we need to walk through. And so that's my testimony and my aha, is that all God was requiring me to do was to just start. And he said, don't worry about the details. And I did it. And you, in hearing God, seeing whatever you saw in me, here we are. And I'm excited for that.
Oh, that's such a wonderful story. I'm totally crying. Oh my goodness. Well, that is so wild.
Yeah.
I will say to you that this is my first recording, like, real recording, not our practice ones that we're leading up to. And so I did a practice with Haley, my assistant, but this is my first real recording, real guest. So I guess, God intended us to start together, because I just keep saying, yes, God, yes, God, yes, God. Even though I don't know the way, God, I'll just keep walking through the next door and the next door and the next door. And the doors just keep opening, and be encouraged that if you say yes to God, he will keep opening those doors, and don't become discouraged. Don't become fearful. Just keep saying, I'll go where you want me to go. Right. Yes, God,
Yep.
Oh, that is so wonderful.
So when we talked about it yesterday, I immediately knew. I was like, I have to share this with her, because it's like you said, just keep giving God the yes, and just keep walking. I remember him telling me a while ago, he said, Takiya, if I've opened the door, just keep walking through it. Like, just keep going.
Exactly.
And so
I'm excited. Like, to who God wants to open the doors for you to reach. And I know when I have been in process of writing my book, the encouragement everyone has been giving me is just write to this one person, just pick one person and write to them, because that'll help you focus, your energy and your thoughts. And if no one else reads it but that one person, well, guess what? That's okay. It takes the pressure off of you, because God will get it in the hands of who needs it, one person or a million,
That's
so
it.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Yes, God. And
Yes.
for going for what your heart, knows that it's right. It's time to use your voice and let others know that they too can, be honest with themselves and, live authentically.
Yeah. Living authentically. And I will say this also, it's been healing. And that's what God told me. I kept getting, this another woman that was praying for me. I remember she walked up to me and she laid hands on my belly and she said, you just got to let go. You got to let it go. You got to let it go. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm not enough forgiveness. God, I really do want to let go of all this hurt and pain. Well, God finally revealed, he said, Takiya, I'm not telling you you're in unforgiveness. When I say let it go, I mean, you got to let it out. You got to speak. You got to let it come out, because you got to give voice to what's in you. You've got to overcome with your testimony, but it's also healing. Because I remember when I shot that first podcast episode, every time I talked a little more, it was like this burden lifted. I felt lighter. I felt healthier, because I wasn't holding on, internalizing all of that stress. And I said, recording my podcast episodes is like therapy. I'm like, I just feel like I'm inviting you all on the couch with me.
So, yeah.
And it's so good. It's so good.
Your intro. Welcome to my sofa.
Welcome to my sofa. Come in. Don't be afraid of what you hear.
I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so it's healing.
Being real is where, like, if you're real with me and tell me your story, well, you know what? It gives me then the freedom to be real with you and let my story out. And, so you're opening up the opportunity for others to share their voice as well. I think so often, and you were talking about something that reminded me of this. I kept getting a prophecy a while back about this ministry that I'm starting. And they said, why do you stiff arm God? Like, and I'm like, stiff arm God, what does that mean? And then another person came to me and said, God said to bend your elbows. Okay. So instead of stiff arming God, we're bending the elbows. Well, I'm like, okay, it started to click with me that it had, and I started to understand it. But what it had to do with was we're holding God back. Stay back, God. I'm not ready for my calling. I'm not ready to do these amazing things. I'm not ready because I'm not enough yet. And in your journey, you're healing. You're not saying, wait, God, you're healing as you go. That's so raw and vulnerable. And it's just beautiful, to other individuals. Well, all righty. So I have a little graphic here, and I'm going to share that with our audience with all of the different ways that they can connect with you. But if you could also just tell us the various ways that we can connect with you.
All right. Well, first and foremost, my podcast, Behind This Smile. I would absolutely adore you all, my new BFFs. If you would love to hear more of my voice, I want you to head over to my podcast, Behind This Smile with Takiya Shaune. I'm on Apple and Spotify and every platform there is. So help me to just share the word even more. I have a website, Takiya Shaune Ministries, where I have different outlets for women. So the thing that I want to be able to do is not just talk to you about what I do and who I am, but I want to equip you with the tools to help you in the space and the place that you are to be able to grow. So Takiya Shaune Ministries has different tools and things like that for you there. And then of course, there's all my social media handles, Behind This Smile and at Your Smile Is Your Weapon on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of those places. And then you can get my books as well on my website.
Wonderful, wonderful. And all of that is going to be in the description on our YouTube page so that you can click into those as well. But we are so glad that you've been here with us at ArieVive Studios. Thank you, and tune in next week. We have another amazing show for you and a wonderful guest. And thank you so much, Takiya, for being here. We really love you and appreciate you.
Thank you, Victory. I had an amazing time. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the ArieVive Studios talk show and podcast hosted by Victory Lyric. It's our goal to inspire you to be all you were called and created to be. Join us next week as we showcase nationwide artisans and their unique stories. It's your opportunity to explore creativity with diverse crafts, recipes, and tutorials with practical tips for unleashing your artistic side. So until next week, God bless from your friends at the ArieVive Studios Talk Show and Podcast and your host, Victory Lyric.